West Africa has become a breeding ground for Islamic terrorism as the region struggles with coups and diplomatic relations with the United States and France in particular deteriorate. Mali, a global south country and former French colony, has become home to the world's most active Islamic insurgency in recent years as Islamic State and Al-Qaeda gain footholds and influence in the region. In 2014, then French President François Hollande launched Operation Barkhane. Operation Barkhane was designed to help train and support troops in the region as they battled these insurgents. Though Operation Barkhane was able to take out some high-level officials within the terrorist organizations, it was ultimately unsuccessful at stemming the broader flow of terrorism within the region. Operation Barkhane faced many setbacks. It had operational difficulties and miscommunication between French and respective African nations, governments, and militaries. But most of all, its public relation policy was terrible. French cyber campaigners who worked on social media to try to drum up support for the initiative were underprepared and poorly managed, and frankly, no match for their Russian counterparts who were churning out misinformation and conspiracy theories about the French presence in Africa far more effectively than the French could counter them. Additionally, in 2020, Mali's government was overthrown in a military coup, and anti-French sentiment began to grow across the region. Anti-French sentiment has been capitalized on by politicians, both military juntas and regular politicians in the region, and it has been called the most profound anti-Western movement since the end of the Cold War. U.S. efforts to stem the flow of terrorism in the region are also notable, with a new drone base in discussion, and prior to Niger's coup, the United States had a strong working relationship with their military as well. French military presence has dissolved in several of their former colonies as military juntas take over and they kick them out in favor of Wagner mercenaries. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are all countries that have been overthrown by military juntas and currently have Wagner mercenaries helping them fight the terrorists now. France still has troops in Ivory Coast, Benin, Senegal, Chad, and Gabon. However, they're losing favor in the region. And China and Russia have been swooping in and picking up the pieces. This is an important story because it involves one of the most profound anti-Western movements in recent history. It also involves an entire region of a large and populous continent on the world. And it involves Russian and Chinese interests, which have spread in Africa recently. And the people in these regions are a vulnerable people. They have been constantly mismanaged and forgotten about for the past 200 years. And ultimately, they're the ones that are going to suffer the most. It's not going to be people sitting in Paris, Moscow, or DC making these decisions. It's going to be the people of West Africa who are going to end up suffering the most out of this conflict. Terrorism can spread, and as we said, this could be used as a terrorist hub later in the future, and it's becoming one. Additionally, I'd like to pose the question, does France have any point continuing? Should France give up? And how much, if any, support a country is supposed to give its former colony? Those are two interesting questions, I thought. Additionally, my opinion is I think the United States and its Western allies need to seek to strengthen diplomatic ties with all these countries, even if they're run by junta governments. I think establishing contact and diplomatic relations with them is much better than simply letting them go to the Russians and the Chinese. Thank you.